أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله الذي لا يبلغ مدحته القائلون ولا يحصي نعماءه العادون ولا يعدي حقه المجتهدون، الذي لا يدركه بعد الهمم ولا يناله خوف الفطن، ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين، حبيب قلوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا والشفيع ذنوبنا، سيدنا ومولانا أبي القاسم محمد وعلى أهل البيت الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين، ولعن الله أعداءهم أجمعين إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد، فقد قال الله قوله الحق. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا استجيبوا لله ولرسوله إذا دعاكم لما يحييكم واعلموا أن الله يحول بين المرء وقلبه وأنه إليه تحشرون. صلى الله عليه وسلم. Rediscovering Islam has been our ongoing topic. Tonight is lecture number 6. Yesterday we talked a little bit about this very important and crucial relationship between us and our a'mal, and how if there's any salvation for us in the hereafter, it's going to be the deeds that we take with us from this world. And how it's very crucial that we humble ourselves, that we lower ourselves when it comes to our own a'mal, and not believe that we've done something great for Islam. Always move and always lead towards this idea of ensuring that we're constantly bettering our amal by bettering our niyat and our sincerity. In today's discussion, I want to put a pause on our topic and dedicate today's discussion to our Holy Prophet. When I got word that I'd be coming here to speak, and there was a discussion about which topic to talk about, for a second there I thought to myself to dedicate the entire Ashra to the Holy Prophet. Given the light, given the current events, of course, around the world, and given the fact that there have been insulting videos made about our Holy Prophet, and cartoons sketched about him, and books written about him, and articles written against him, there was a need, of course, for us to once again reintroduce and rediscover our Holy Prophet to us. And I didn't choose to have the entire Ashra dedicated to him, but I did tell myself that I would at least dedicate one lecture to him, to ensure that we know a little bit about the Holy Prophet. If there's one thing that perhaps we lack as Shias, it is our knowledge or perhaps our connection to the Holy Prophet. And naturally, we spent so many generations trying to ensure that our ma'rifat, our level of awareness when it came to the Imams were so high that maybe I'm wrong, but perhaps in the process we lost a little bit of a connection with our Holy Prophet. And I encourage my youth and those of my elders to read about the history of the arrival of Islam, his zahmat, his mehnat across 23 years. And we can really extract immense lessons for our own lives from the difficulties that he went through across 23 years. There have been movies made now in terms of the history, countless articles and books in English online about this. It's really important that we understand that as great as our 12 Imams were, their entire nur is based on the nur of our Holy Prophet. And so yes, while it may not be a completely solid line to our topic, it is a dashed line at least, in the sense that we're rediscovering our ma'rifat when it comes to the prophet of our deen. One tradition I came across that I found very beautiful, I want to share with all of you in my research on today's discussion. Our Holy Prophet was sitting with a few companions of his, and he was saying, Mata al-liqa ikhwani. When will I meet my brothers? When will I have a chance to do mulaqa with my brothers? And the ashab were a little bit confused. They said, Alu alasna ikhwanik? Are we not your brothers, Ya Rasulullah? Qala bala antum ashabi. Says, no, you are my ashab. وَإِخْوَانِي الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا بِي وَلَمْ يَرَوْنِي. That my brothers are those who believe in me without ever having seen me. Allah. أَنَا إِلَيْهِمْ بِأَشْوَاقٍ. And for them I have immense longing and desire to meet them. The relationship and the love that the Holy Prophet is expressing towards the companions, for you and I in that hadith. Our pride is the fact that yes, we believe in that Holy Prophet that we never laid eyes on. And our Holy Prophet years ago is saying that these individuals, yani you and I, are his brothers. It's a beautiful tradition. It's one that should make us extremely happy and proud inside. That 1400 years ago, our Holy Prophet remembered us back then. At the same time, when we see the halats today, how Muslim our Prophet is today, how insulted he is today, there should be a rage inside of us. There should be a sense of defending that Holy Prophet inside of us. There should be this idea of how is it possible that Rahmatul lil Alameen is treated this way in the media. And so there comes a need for us to defend the Holy Prophet. And the best defense that we could possibly do when it comes to our Holy Prophet is to adopt some of his lifestyles, to become like him. To show the world that you may ridicule and insult him, but his sunnah for us is a path of life. You know, sometimes we get a little bit caught up in the West here, and we hide from certain realities of Islam just to please the people here in the West. Imam Hussein alayhi salatu wasalam, he existed at a time where the name of his father was the source of ridicule and cursing from the middle of Ma'abiyah, as many of you know. It was a custom, unfortunately, back then. So first said Na'ana Nabi al-Mu'mineen, and then begin your speech or your poetry or presentation. In that halat, in that state, in that environment, the name Ali had immense negative connotation to it. Are you with me? Yes? Okay. In that state, what Imam Hussein did was what? He named every single one of his sons Ali. It's a lesson for us. It's a lesson for us that in that time when Ali had this negative link to it, he ensured that at least through me, I'm going to ensure the name Ali once again is regained its beautiful power back to it. So he named every single one of his sons Ali. In this day and age, when it comes to our Holy Prophet, back then he was labeled Majnoon and Sahir and all these different names, and today also he's equally labeled all these things. It's you and I have to step up and say, no, this is who the Holy Prophet was. This was his lifestyle, and we show it by living that lifestyle ourselves. After all, he is an ultimate uswatun hasanah for us. لَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ, the Quran says, that in this apostle of Allah, you'll find the best example, the ultimate example. And I'd like to examine two areas of our Holy Prophet's life today, where you and I can mirror the life of the Holy Prophet. One of them, of course, is his akhlaq. There is no doubt and no shak in anyone's mind. You've been telling madrasah all your life, alhamdulillah. If we know anything about the Holy Prophet, It's his loving nature, it's his merciful nature, his compassion, his love towards the young and the old, his respect for those who are Muslim and non-Muslim, everything. إِنَّكَ لَعَلَى خُلُقٍ عَظِيمٍ. The Quran says that with you, inside of you, is the best of akhlaq. To understand this, and akhlaq, of course, is a completely different topic altogether, but to understand this, we have to understand 3 stages. Tahalli, tahalli, tajalli. 3 stages. One salat is on Muhammad. And to understand these 3 stages, I'll give you the example of corporate America. For those of you in the audience who work for corporate America or for a corporation that is a big one, I want you to imagine that your manager comes to you one day and says, look, the CEO of the company is coming on Monday. And he wants to meet our departments. Now, if your corporation is a large one, meeting the CEO of that company is a rarity. You don't see that CEO all the time. Now he's coming to your branch, to your location, to your office, and he wants to meet you. And your manager's giving you a heads up on that today is Thursday, on Monday he's going to come and see you. Monday morning hits, you go to get ready, you open up your closet, and because it's time to meet the CEO, you pick the best suit you have inside the closet. You iron it, you make sure everything is good, you put on a nice matching tie, and you make your way towards work. You park your car a little bit, a few blocks away from your work, because that's where parking is in New Jersey sometimes. Not available. As you're walking towards your workplace, now it rained the night before, so there are massive puddles everywhere. You're walking on the sidewalk, and now a big SUV comes roaring down the street, hits the puddle, and splashes you all over your suit. It's 1 hour before your meeting. And your suit is drenched from the puddle on the ground. Now, if it had been a regular Monday morning, you walk into the office, go into, let's say, the bathroom, and try to dry your suit off. But this is the meeting of the CEO now this morning. Majority of you, maybe, might have to go home and put on a new suit. Because the idea of going to meet the CEO with these types of clothing on isn't an option. And depending on how high of a position that individual you are going to meet with, you'll be that much more careful about what you have on. Follow me for a second. Tahalli in Islam is no different when it comes to meeting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala during salat. Sometimes we stand at the musalla and we have anything and everything in our closet we have on, and we're praying salat in that state. Libas in Islam, when it comes to salat especially, has an immense impact on it. And sometimes we're not even worried about whether or not our clothes are najis on the outside or not. We're still sitting there on the musalla janamaz, praying our salat. The same respect that you would give in your corporate work to the CEO of your company by making sure you would change your clothes because it was completely drenched is the same respect that Islam says to give Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when you're praying salat in front of Him. When a companion approaches our 8th Imam, Imam Wada alayhi salatu wa salam, and says, Ya Ibn Rasulullah, can you give me some hadiyah that I can benefit from you? Imam Wada goes inside of his closet and gives this companion a shirt that's been used and worn. The companion looks at the shirt and says, thank you very much, but it's a used shirt, Ya Rasulullah. At least something new would have been nice. Imam says, with this libas, I prayed 1,000 rakats in one night. This is the best thing I have for you in terms of my collection. Libas has an immense impact. That's why the urafa and the ulama who are at a high state would have a khas libas for salat every single time. And now I know obviously sometimes it's not feasible for you to go into, let's say, a phone booth, change your clothes, come back out. As much as some guys would love to do that, but it's not possible. But the idea of takhalli is the outer najasa to be in a state of taharat and purity, at least on the dhahir, before you begin your salat. Takhalli, going along with the same example. Now, let's say, for example, this individual who has the suit on, about to enter the CEO meeting, has a dog at home as a pet. Follow me for a second. He decides on Monday morning, for some odd reason, to bring the dog to the meeting. Very strange. He walks in with the dog, and the man says, "What are you doing? Is that your dog that you brought from home?" So yes, it is. But the CEO is about to meet with us. Can you leave the dog at your desk? Don't bring the dog inside the meeting. You wouldn't bring any dog inside the meeting with the CEO. Sometimes when it comes to our own internal dimensions, we have an animalistic dimension to ourselves. We have this haywaniyat inside of us. This ghazab and shahwa that we have is our animalistic dimension to it. And sometimes in the state of an animal, and I'll explain that in a moment, we sit on the musalla in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We bring that animal with us when we pray Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why in hadith we have this anger has been an example of a dog, for example. Lust has been an example of a pig, for example. We have many examples of that in hadith. Sometimes what we do is we don't even stop to realize I'm about to enter this realm of salat with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Let me at least clear my mind and remove this anger inside of me. Then we wonder for a moment why my salat isn't any sort of mi'raj for me. It's just up and down, up and down. I lose 21 calories across 4 cuts. That's it. That's why ulama tell us that if you want to really have this idea of huzur al-qalb inside of our salat, which is a completely different topic and one that should be discussed, then at least in the zahir, in the apparent inside of your homes, choose that area in the house that has the least amount of traffic in it, the least amount of distractions in it. But no, what we'll do is we'll choose the busiest room in the house, right? And right in the middle of that room, we'll lay our janamaz and pray. The kids are running around, the football game is on, the smoked karpidal is in the kitchen, or chicken 65, or khanina, right? And in this halat, we want to somehow, Allahu Akbar, pray salat. And during our salat, we hear the commentator say, "Oh, there was a fumble in the game," and I'm like, "Oh my God, I can't believe he fumbled." Along These things are not going to cut it. These distractions around you aren't going to cut it. Or what we do is we choose sometimes the worst times to pray salat. After fighting with our wife, or fighting with our children, or having an argument with our brothers or our friends, at that moment we choose to pray salat. Now we're still fuming from the arguments, and in that halat, now we're going to pray. It doesn't work. You're bringing that animal of a dog to the musalla. Remove that from your mind, and then start your salat. Tahalli in Islam is the inner najasa. It's that inner fighting of your demons. It's to make sure that you are in that angelic state when you start your salat. Now tomorrow, inshallah, we'll discuss a topic called ma'arifat al-nafs. A crucial topic in our discovery of Islam. In that we'll talk about these different dimensions that exist inside of the human body. We have animalistic dimensions, we have angelic dimensions. If we want to expect this salat to be the ma'araj of us, that ascension for us, we have to come in an angelic form, where we are pak on the outside and pak on the inside. And then we can expect this idea of tajalli, which is the last stage, seeing the manifestations of Allah everywhere. Our Holy Prophet was no different. He was clean on the outside, on the inside, of course, and he was, of course, an individual who would do mi'raj constantly with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A little bit of effort when it comes to our worship on these 3 stages will at least begin the process of us following the sunnah of our Holy Prophet. One salatu ala Muhammad. The second aspect in his life that we want to speak about is the fact that he existed at a time of ignorance. He existed in an environment that was a non-agreeable environment to Islam, as many of you know. He was living amongst individuals who were so ignorant. They would do tawaf of the Kaaba without clothes on. They would worship idols that they would make with their own hands. They would worship idols that they would make out of food items. Worship that God that they made and have that same God for dinner later on. The extreme age and the point of the highest point of ignorance, our Holy Prophet lived amongst those people. But nowhere do we see in any of our books that he was affected by his society. We equally live in a non-Islamic society. We believe that all these different stories about idol worshipping and the age of ignorance was for that time. No, I can draw many comparisons to the Prophet's time and to this time. If there was idol worshipping back then, there's idol worshipping today as well. The idols might have changed a little bit, but it's idol worshipping. If there was common bloodshed back then for no reason, there's common bloodshed today for no reason as well. If women were disrespected back then and treated as objects in this society, they're equally treated as objects. We believe the Zaman of Jahiliyyah was back then. I'm sorry, we live today in the Zaman of Jahiliyyah. Our phones have gotten smarter. We haven't. We believe that because our phones are smarter and our cars are better and our TVs are bigger, that taraqi and that pishraf has come to the human being. No, I'm sorry. The human being is regressing. Everything around us is progressing. And we live in that environment. And like I mentioned yesterday, the idea is to stick around now. And the same way that he was that light amongst the darkness, we equally have to be that light amongst the darkness in this society as well. Inside the Holy Quran, it's a point that my teacher made, I'm sure you've heard it several times. Wherever you see bulemat in the Quran, you see nur as its muqabil. Follow me for a second, please. Right? Min al-nur ila bulemat. Min al-bulemat ila nur, like the verse says. Now, in the world of grammar, it would make more sense if a singular word would battle a singular word, and a plural would battle a plural. Bulemat is plural of bul. Nur is a single word. What would make more sense is it would say min al-anwar ila bulemat, or min al-bulemat ila al-anwar. It doesn't say that though. It's just for every darkness and the darknesses, there is one nur. So at least we can say to this extent from the apparent of these types of ayat, that while we have different paths of darkness in this world, that path of light and nur is one, has always been one, and that nur is Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Many different avenues are out there to distract us, to move us away from this light. But as long as we are able to get back to one path of our Holy Prophet, we are on the path of nur. The ayat that I constantly read for you in the khutbah talks about that. Istajibu lillahi wa li-rasuli idha da'akum lima yuhyikum. Surah Anfal says, then answer the call of your Allah and Rasul when they invite you towards that which will bring you life. If you look at the shan and nuzul of this verse, you'll know that there is a hadith attached to this verse as well. When this verse was revealed, the companions asked, Ya Rasulullah, what does this verse mean? And they said that in the sand he drew 3 different paths. One line was straight, the other 2 were going off to the side. He said, everything else around me are these 2 different paths. The path of me and my ahl-ul-bayt is completely straight. And those individuals that deviate off the path of Islam are people who have lost that path of the ahl-ul-bayt. And that path is nur, that path is hayat and zindagi. We don't need to take the works and the words of the ahl-ul-bayt and tweak them so it can be something that we like to do. We're deviating off the path. We're deviating it off the path. That path is very common. It's been made for us, it's been planted and paid for us. This is your path. Follow it now. To make a left when you shouldn't and a right when you shouldn't is not what we're after right now. So two factors in the life of the Holy Prophet. One was his akhlaq, and the second was the fact that he lived in a society that was non-Islamic. He wasn't affected by society. Instead, he affected the society. We convince ourselves that the lack of my iman is because of my society. I've become this way because of the West. If I had lived in this, let's say, country where there is Islam that's more prevalent, then maybe I would have been different. The Holy Prophet also lived amongst individuals who were pagan, ignorant, completely jahil. But he maintained his iman, and not only that, he was able to establish the Islamic government in that area, conquer the peninsula in that environment, across 23 years only. It's funny, I remember I told my father-in-law once that, I'm approaching 40 years old now, and I'm getting old, and there's a few white hairs in my beard. He said to me that, did you know that the mission of the Holy Prophet started at 40? That he was able to conquer the world after 40. So again, to my elders, you think that, I'm old now, I'm set in my ways, I can't change? Absolutely not. At the age of 40, he was able to conquer the world, change the entire scope of his environment. That's why Amir al-Mu'mineen says to not become this idea where you are part of the dunya. Don't become part of the dunya. Present another lifestyle, the dunya attaches itself to you. So sometimes it's important that when we are at work, for example, I'm saying just small minor examples that all of you know, mashallah. When you are at work, for example, and it's time for salat, maybe instead of telling salat that I'm at work, you can tell your work that it's time for salat. Maybe on, let's say, on Shab al-Qadr, if it's on a weekday, let's say, for example, instead of sleeping 5 hours, we can say, we'll sleep 2 hours, do the amal, and still go to work. It'll be a tough day. We'll have lots of coffees to keep ourselves awake. But the idea of missing Shab al-Qadr for a 9-to-5 job shouldn't sit well with any of you. And before you tell me, I said, you have no idea, you don't even live here. Yeah, I do. I also worked in corporate Canada for several years. It's difficult, but the idea is that we have to be able to present a different lifestyle to the people around us. In today's day and age especially, you may not even feel it at work, people are looking for a solution. They're looking for hope. They're looking for some sort of reason to get up in the morning. We should be able to provide that reason to everybody. The last and the third aspect of his life, the Holy Prophet, and this is a point to my elders in the Majma, in the audience, was his approachability. And this really is extended to all of the ahl-ul-bayt. I think I'm losing some of you. One salat on Muhammad. There's a story that we have in the time of the Holy Prophet. It's humorous, but at the same time it's a good lesson for our elders especially. Our Holy Prophet was walking in the streets of Mecca after the announcement of his Risalat. He sees a young man standing at the corner of the street. And with him are about 3 or 4 members of the female race. He walks by this young man and he says salam, he greets them. He says, how's it going? And the Prophet, the message is going very well. He says, Ya Rasulullah, I've lost my donkey. And I've heard that females are very good at finding donkeys. He said, okay. And he walks past him. The next day, the exact same street corner, the exact same guy is standing there, now, mashallah, with 2 or 3 different females. And the Prophet walks up to him and says, have you found your donkey yet? He says, no, Rasulullah, I'm still looking for my donkey. He goes, okay. This young man now sits in the masjid when it's about time for prayer. The Holy Prophet comes and sits right beside him. And he thinks, oh boy, here we go. This is it. The Holy Prophet leans forward and says, young man, have you found your donkey yet? And he says, Ya Rasulullah, we know there was never a donkey. He says, I know there wasn't a donkey. I'm not foolish. He says, then why wouldn't you say anything at that moment? He says, young man, I didn't want to embarrass you in front of your friends. The approachability of the Holy Prophet. Sometimes we have young individuals, sometimes we have your own children that have issues, that have problems, that have questions. They want to approach somebody, but we don't present that approachability to them for them to come to us. And one of the biggest problems that we have of our own, the ulama from the Hawza, is that we need to create an approachability where the youth come to us and ask us questions. But first, in terms of being the fathers and the husbands at home, you equally have to make it a point for your children to say, look, if there's any issue outside, any issue in your life, come to me first. Talk to me first. If they don't talk to you, they'll talk to somebody else. And that somebody else might give them the worst advice there is. Being approachable is very, very key. And that's how the Holy Prophet was. And that's how the ahl-ul-bayt were in general. Our 5th and 6th Imam had an open door policy when it came to anybody and everybody asking questions. And we know in our books that everybody came to that door. Muslim or non, Shia or non, atheist, it doesn't matter, they always came to that door. As my Ustad said, always remember, if any mazhab or sect of faith ever says to their followers that don't ever ask about this issue, don't ever talk about this issue, they know there's something wrong with that faith. Follow that point for a moment. How many Christian individuals have converted to Islam in the recent years? Many of them, I can tell you. In North America. And when you ask them, how did you convert? They said, you know what, I would go to their priest and ask him, can you please defend the Trinity to me? Explain this concept to me. And they would reply by saying, don't ask for the Trinity. Just believe, brother. And Jesus loves you. That's great. He loves me. I love him too. Explain the Trinity to me though. No, don't ask for the Trinity. You have no rights. And when they weren't able to provide a logical reasoning for that, and they didn't question the thing. When other sects of faith tell their followers that, look, don't go to the Shias and ask them about anything. They will make you confused. That means there's a problem with their faith. I'm sorry to say. You don't have that much confidence in your followers to know that even if the Shias were to bring up some issues, they can defend it? No. But our mazhab says question as long as you want. Doubt whatever you want. It has so much confidence in its deen to know that you could doubt anything you want. You'll end up exactly at the door of the ahl-ul-bayt again. That's why these youth today who ask so many questions, and it frustrates some of our elders. Why this, why that, why this, why Nazar, why Kunde, what is this whole thing? You get rattled, you get frustrated. Because you came from a society generation that didn't have that open door policy. At least I don't think so. You weren't able to ask your fathers or your grandfathers about this or about that. You simply did it, that's it. These kids, it won't work with them. You have to explain to them what's going on. As Maulana Asad Jafri used to very, very famously say, the kids in the West, they walk into the house and they say 3 things. And then they leave. They say hi, why, and bye. That's it. That's a khulasai kalam of the youth in the West. And while it frustrates us as elders, it's actually a very beautiful, beautiful concept. Because they want to know the asli deen. They want to know why I'm this. Don't tell me to do this, tell me why I'm doing it. And when you don't have the answer, they have shak in your mind now. Is this Islamic or is it non-Islamic? So adopting the approachability of the Holy Prophet and by extension the ahl-ul-bayt is key to the development of Islam in this world. Listen to their questions. If you don't have the answer, find those answers for them. Because the Holy Prophet needs to be defended in this day and age. And you and I need to defend it, that Holy Prophet. You know, one more point and we'll move towards Messiah. A lot of individuals, when they found out about the outrage in the Muslim world about this YouTube video, movie that was made about the Holy Prophet, their response to us was that, look, it's fair game. I mean, the media makes fun of Nabi Isa, they make fun of Moses, they make fun of all these Hindu gods. You don't see these guys going crazy. So what? They make fun of your prophet. What's the big deal? What they want us to be is immune to these types of things. They want us to laugh it off. We're not like those other followers that become immune to the idea that your holy prophet is being ridiculed and you don't say anything. That's them, that's not us. Our holy prophet is azim to us. He's great to us, he's respected to us. He's the best creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You ridicule him, you will get rage from us. You will get a response from us. If we don't respond, that means we're dead inside. You poke us and poke us and poke us when you open the cage and we bite, then you complain that we're terrorists and fanatics and extremists. Don't poke us then. Don't ridicule our Holy Prophet, because you will get a reaction from us. It means that we're alive and we're attached to that Holy Prophet. Until there is breath inside of us, we will defend that life of the Holy Prophet. So don't fall into this trap of becoming immune to the idea of the Holy Prophet. Because every step of the way of Imam Hussein's journey, he remembered his grandfather. He constantly reminded everybody, I'm going for the Islah of the Ummah of my dad, of my grandfather. And on those moments where he really missed him the most, where he couldn't stand it anymore, he would simply look at the face of Ali Akbar. That Ali Akbar who khulqan and khalqan was a Shabir Rasulullah. Ayatollah Naini narrates that one day when I read the Musibat of Abu Abdullah in Muharram, I saw Imam Hussein in my dream. And standing in front of me, my mullah was covered from head to toe in arrows. The next night, he again read another Musibat. Again, he saw Imam Hussein in his dream. This time, all the arrows were gone, except for 2 arrows. Yes. He said, Mullah, last night I saw you from head to toe in arrows. Tonight I see you with only 2 arrows. He says, Na'ini, every single time one of my Shias cry for my musibats, an arrow is taken out of my body. So then, Mullah, these 2 arrows? He said, there are 2 arrows. And there are 2 musibats. So no matter how much they cry, it'll never leave me. One is the arrow of Abbas, and one is of Ali Akbar. If one shahada almost killed Abu Abdullah, it was the shahada of Ali Akbar. When all of the ashab gave their life one by one, it came time for the Bani Hashim. Ali Akbar came forward and said, Baba, give me ijazat now. Imam Hussein wanted to show the world that while I preach the idea of sacrifice, I'm sacrificing that Ali Akbar that to me was the sense of serenity and calmness. I'm sending him first to the Maidan Karbala. But can you imagine my fathers in the audience who have Jawan's sons at home, in the prime of their life? He approaches Imam Hussein and says, Baba, give me ijazat. And some riwayat say Imam Hussein immediately gave the ijazat to Ali Akbar. They embraced before he mounted the horse. And Sheikh Abbas Qumi says they cried until the cry could be heard by Zainab. The same Zainab who didn't come out of her khaymadah for any shaheed, but when Ali Akbar was brought back to the khaymadah, she came outside. He mounted Ali Akbar on the horse. And he told Ali Akbar that you're going to the Maidan of Karbala. But every so often, every once in a while if you can, just turn back and look towards me. Just show me your face every so often. When Ali Akbar made his way towards the Maidan of Karbala, he could hear his Baba behind him running. He got off the horse and said, Baba, you gave me ijazat. Why are you after me now? He goes, hey gosh, if only you were Sahib-e-Olad and had the son that I had in you, you would understand how difficult it was. Imam Hussein was a human being. He had a beating heart inside of him. His son was dear, just like your son is dear to you. Ali Akbar fought like a warrior. Killing rows upon rows of the enemy. But as I mentioned last night, these individuals would never fight one-on-one. They would surround the Bani Hashim. One would strike from the back, one would strike the leg, one would strike the chest. Eventually one, my own king, had a baichi in his hand and struck Ali Akbar in the chest and broke the handle of the baichi off. Ali Akbar falls from the horse and says, Alaykum minni salam, ya abada. Oh my father, my akhli salam to you. At that moment, Imam Hussein came running towards Maidan Karbala. What he does with every other shaheed, Imam Hussein, was he takes the head of the shaheed in his lap and he clears the blood. With Ali Akbar, he didn't do that. With Ali Akbar, he took the cheek of Ali Akbar and he put it on his own cheek. He saw that one hand of Ali Akbar was on the shoulder of Imam Hussein. Imam Hussein asked him, said, Beta, where's your other hand? I don't see your other hand. When Imam Hussein moved Ali Akbar, he saw that he was covering his chest and there was blood coming out of it. He said, Baba, there's pain in my chest, Baba. There's a baichi lodged in my chest. Imam Hussein laid Ali Akbar down the plains of Karbala. He began to take out the baichi with his hand. But every single time he went to take the baichi out, the body of Ali Akbar would go up and down on the plains of Karbala. At that moment they say that on one knee was the chest of Ali Akbar. He put one foot on the plain of Karbala. He grabbed the baichi, turned towards Najaf and said, Baba, you are the one, Baba, you are the one that ripped the door of Qayem that took 40 men to open and close. But have you ever ripped a baichi out of the chest of your Jamal's son? Come to Karbala, Baba. See your Hussein, see my Ali Akbar. He grabbed the baichi, one knee on the chest, one foot on the plains of Karbala, and said, Ya Ali, and pulled the chest. سيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلبين ينقلبون إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون.